challenge 24, there's not so much difficult here to go on really. It shouldn't take too long, pretty straightforward, just a little bit of repetitive code is all that's involved really. And we could maybe put it into some sort of loop so that we can play multiple games and you don't just kind of stop when you need to. For example, if there's a game tied, you might want to play again. So this time it's saying randomly generates the computer status rock, paper or scissors. So there's a few different ways that we can do that really. The easiest way is to generate a random number, and then of that random number each one would equate to rock, paper or scissors. I'm going to show you how to do a nice easy way using lists. So in this challenge there are other ways that we could do this, and we could do it very easily without doing like a random generator, but it's not going to be much fun. So to make it like a proper game that you could actually use, we're going to use a proper list. So we're going to use game options because that's the different sorts of statuses, isn't it? And we're going to put game options, and we're going to put the three choices that you can have in here. So it's either rock, it's paper, or it's scissors. Now this is a list, and we can tell that by these square brackets, and it's a one-dimensional list, which means we've just got one item after another listed inside it. We've got commas to separate each value, so we know that that list has been declared properly. Now in order for us to pick something randomly, we're going to need to use a function from the random library. So we're going to import this library, and a library is it's like a predefined set of functions where we can load things in from elsewhere that someone else has written. So it saves us having to write lots of complicated code. We can just import it in. So now what we're going to do is we're basically going to say that the computer's status is equal to random.choice. Now random is the library that we're using, dot is to say what value we're going to use, and choice is the function that we're going to load. And random.choice, whatever we stick in brackets, is what it's going to generate a random response from. So it's going to go through that list and choose a random response. Now before we go any further, we're just going to check that that is actually working. So we want to check that this is generating a random status. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this forever just to make sure that it's coming up with different values. So on the left hand side now we can see all these different values getting generated, rock, paper, scissors. So we know that that is working, it's generating random responses. So now we can continue with the main program. What we now need to do is we know that it's generated a random status. So we're going to use that to run the game. So you're going to basically compare what the computer has got with what the user is going to input. So we could call this variable your status, and we could say that that is going to be an input. Enter rock, paper or scissors. Now essentially that's going to work. Might be a little bit kind of tiresome for people to type in rock, paper or scissors, so we could put a proper menu system in, and then that way we can compare them properly. But for now, excuse me, Sunday night, for now we are going to compare what they type in with what the computer has got. So we need to put the game rules in essentially. So if computer status equals your status, Start with the easy one first. Print. Game tied. So that's our easy part. Now what we need to do is put all of the other possible combinations that we can have. So if computer status equals rock and your status equals, see the first one, scissors, then the output is computer wins. So we're going to put print, and then all we're going to do is just repeat this for all of the other possible combinations that we can have. So if the computer generates paper, and you do rock, then computer wins. And if you do scissors, the computer does scissors, and you do paper, then computer wins. So we basically need to, well, according to this, it just says otherwise output you win. So they're the three combinations, and you could just say anything else means that you win. If it helps, you could put all of the other combinations, so where it's the other way round, then that's fine. But because the question says anything else you win, we can put you win. You could do, this program will now work and it will output whoever wins the particular thing, but we could make it better. So let's just try making it work first and making sure everything's okay. So we need to type in a value. So if I put rock, computer wins, it doesn't tell me why he wins. So one thing that we could do first of all is say what they picked. So after you've picked your input, before it does the output, you could say print computer chose, and we'll put computer status in. And now what it's going to do is output what the computer's actual choice was before we do anything else. So we can just put that bit of code before every answer that comes up. Now let's try that. Should give us a little bit more information. So if I put scissors this time, computer chose scissors, so the game is tied. So we can see now that it gives you a little bit more information, makes the game a little bit more interesting. Normally, if the game was tied, you would play again. And a lot of people play best of three. So we're going to learn how to do that. If you're happy with where we're up to so far, then you can stop. If you want to learn more, then you can carry on. So what we're going to do is just add a little bit of repetition in here, a little bit of a loop. So we're going to generate the random choice and ask you to input yours, and we're going to do all of that 3 times, and we just need to basically put like a final winning score in when the loop is finished as well. So we could probably do with adding a score for each person and do best of 3. So obviously this is going to start getting really complicated if you draw. So essentially we're going to run this 3 times and just output what the score is at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for I in range, let's say that we want to play 3 times, so it's best of 3, and we're going to input or indent all of that code. So if I run this now, it should repeat 3 times. So we're going to do rock, game tied, paper, I won, scissors, computer won. So that's like the worst possible outcome we could have got. Oh no, sorry, I won. So that means I win 2-0. We both got 0 points on that one. However, if we played 3 times and there was a tie, I won and the computer won, then there's no winner. So essentially what we need to do is tell the user that. So what we're going to do is put in a scoring system. So we're going to put user score and set it to 0, and we're going to put computer score and set that to 0. And what we're going to do is each time the computer wins, we're going to add a point, and at the very end of the program, we're going to output the scores. And that'll just make it a little bit more of a better game. So here we're going to put, what do I want to put? Print. No, I want to put computer score equals plus equals 1. So this should increment computer score by 1. And I'm just going to repeat that every time the computer wins. And I want it to, anytime I win, to add user score and add 1 to that. So at the end of the 3 rounds, it should output the score. And what we could do is just say who's won. So we could say if user score is greater than computer score, print user wins. And if it's the other way around, so anything else, print computer wins. And then we could put here, we could put print final scores. And then just put user and the computer. So it's still not perfect as a game, but it's a lot better. You can see exactly what's going to go on here. We're going to have best of 3. It's going to do everything. It's going to keep adding a score to the computer if it wins, add a score to me if I win. And then it's going to tell me if I win, if my score is better at the end. It's going to tell me the computer wins if it scores better at the end. And overall, it's just going to be a little bit of a better game. So we're going to test it now. I'm going to go with rock. Computer wins. So that should be 1-0. Paper. Computer wins. Should be 2-0. Scissors. Computer wins. So computer wins. Final scores 0 to me and 3 for the computer. Couldn't have got more unlucky there, could I? So essentially what's happened there is the game has worked perfectly for best out of 3. The only other thing that could happen is that we could tie every single time and then nobody wins. So that's the only other option that I've got, is with this logic thing here, is there's no other option. So what I could do is add in the opposite. So here I could say user score is less than computer score, computer wins. And then if it's a tie, then you could say print no one wins. Now let's see, I don't know if I'll ever be able to reenact a draw. So you'd have to sit here and test it for quite some time to get it to work, but in theory that should work. Okay, so that is a nice little rock, paper, scissors game. In simple real code that you've used, we've just used importing the random function. We've used the list. We've set some variables to 0 at the start. We've used a little basic for loop to repeat all of this code 3 times. We've used the random function to generate a random item from a list. And then we've incremented the score by 1. And we've done a little comparison at the end to see who wins. So that's a little bit more of a complicated version of Challenge 24, but it's a little bit more fun, so you can actually have a working game at the end.